Hello and welcome everyone to week 3 of this 7-part Lunch and Learn meditation series. I am your meditation instructor, Melanie Pundit. I will be guiding us through. We are focusing today on our first and second energy centers, and I look forward to spending the first section of this class talking about that, helping you to get familiar with the actual process that's taking place as you are getting deeper into this meditation technique. So let's get right into it. As you will recall, our inner subtle energy system is comprised of 3 parts, and I just wanted to review that for us all. You're familiar perhaps with our inner energy or kundalini at the base of the spine in the triangular bone. We discussed in week 2 our 3 energy channels, our left, our right, and our central energy channel. Those are all integral parts of this incredible inner working within us. And today we'll be getting into the discussion of our 7 energy centers, starting on our first and our second energy center, going week by week to culminate in discussing all of these energy centers and really at the same time getting deep into that meditative experience. As you'll recall, our chakras, or our wheels of energy within us, there are 7 of them. They govern our well-being physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. So when they are in a balanced state, we see that, we feel that, we experience that in our lives. And when our inner energy centers, our chakras, are out of balance, we also feel that. So through the practice of meditation, on a very physical level, what we are experiencing is the ability to get into a state of mental silence or thoughtless awareness, where we are able to direct our attention into the silent space above our mind, between our thoughts, raising our attention above all of that mental activity so that we can actually delve into the conducive state which enables this inner transformation to take place. So while we're in that state of meditation, our inner energy at the base of the spine is rising up that central channel, working through and on and as part of our inner energy chakras, our centers, to help reestablish that inner potential within us. So kind of reestablishing, revitalizing, re-energizing, and harmonizing everything that needs to happen within us on all of these levels, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Ultimately, as this inner energy reaches up and culminates at the crown of the head, we experience this happening known as self-realization, or this union between that which exists within us, all of this matter, our inner energy, our kundalini energy, which exists within us, and that union between that which exists within and that which exists all around us. So the within connecting to the without, the yoga or the union. That happening is self-realization. When that happens, and you'll start to experience this as you go in through a couple of weeks of this meditation, practicing on a regular basis, you'll start to be able to sense the state of your chakras or your inner energy centers. You may start to be already feeling on the palms of your hands some sensations, either on the fingertips or the center of the palms. What's happening here is this is decoding the state of our chakras. It's communicating, our inner energy is communicating by expressing itself on the palms of the hands to tell us about the state of our inner energy system, or specifically our chakras and our channels. So it's truly narrating the effects or the process of this experiment. It's inherently proving that this experiment is really taking place. This isn't just an empty process that we can't prove, we can't actually feel the reflection of it within us, but we're starting to feel the reflection, the happening, the activation of this inner energy within us, the awakening of this dormant energy, and feeling how it's reflecting on our hands or expressing on our hands. And that's telling us something. And so as we get more and more into the experience, the practice of Sahaja, we can start to decode what's happening within us and then use that knowledge, use that information to help become more involved in this meditation process. So it is a process that's happening to us, but it's also a process that we're incredibly involved in. And what I always advise initially is to not feel so much compelled to be a part of the process. We are very used to doing and thinking and acting and reacting. But in order to establish that conducive state of meditation in which our attention is focused above our minds, in between our thoughts, not in that compelled state of mental activity, in order to get there, it's important that we kind of stop doing. And so it takes a bit of that practice to be able to establish that conducive state in which our inner energy can start working. Once we've established that kind of baseline and we can be in what we are calling the state of meditation or of silence, being focused in the present moment, no thought whatsoever, and we're starting to feel the reflection or the expression of this energy on the top of the head and in the palms of the hands, that's when I would advise you to start experimenting with getting more involved. And you'll be learning week by week different techniques that you can do as you become more aware of what's happening within, how to use that information, how to use that knowledge to actually become more a part of this meditation process. But initially, I would recommend just meditate with your hands open, fingertips apart. Try to get in tune with that space, that silence of the present moment. Try to sustain your attention there. Try to learn the techniques that will help you to kind of push your attention away from the past and the future and really sustain your attention right here, right now, in the present moment, where you're truly developing more and more tools that enable you to kind of not get tempted by all of those taps on the shoulder that are disturbing and distracting. So that vibratory awareness, it's really exciting to start to develop it and to start to understand what it's all about. As our Kundalini is rising up, she's reflecting on the palms of the hands, and our fingers and the center of the palm all mean different things. We'll be getting into that week by week, but initially just start to observe what you're feeling. This is a little video, a little animation that is a beautiful depiction of what's happening as our inner energy is awakening from a dormant state. And I love to show this to kind of draw a picture of what's really happening within us. So what we have within us is our sacrum bone, that triangular bone at the base of the spine, and that inner energy, that dormant, coiled energy that when awakened from her dormant state, feminine energy, coiled in 3.5 coils. And as she's awakened, she's starting to rise up from that dormant state. And we see within those 7 energy centers. And so Kundalini energy is thousands of strands of energy coiled up. And as those strands of energy are awakened, as our Kundalini is awakened, she's rising up the central channel, ultimately piercing the crown energy center at the very top of the head. You may be able to sense that happening by feeling sensations over the top of the head, and as well feeling those sensations or vibrations or energy on the palms of the hands as well. So hopefully you're already feeling that. And this graphic, this animation, is drawing a picture to what's already happening within you, because we're very much not interested in influencing your experience through the placebo effect, but rather having your experience be authentic, be based on just your experience itself, not because of anything that we've told you, but rather you've had this experience and now you're getting deeper and deeper into it. It's ultimately proving itself to you. So let's start talking about our first and second energy centers, the crux of what we're talking about today. As we're talking about our chakras, ultimately, we're talking about that they can be in an imbalanced state, and then they can be transformed through the process of meditation into a balanced state. So at our first and second energy center, we can see these very simple qualities. We'll get more into that. Transform into positive attributes. So our entire system transforms as our chakras go from an imbalanced state to a balanced state. At our first energy center, it's known in Sanskrit as the Muladhara Chakra. And Muladhara simply means the root or the support, the foundation, that sustenance within us. So it's supporting that root within us. physically, on our physiological level, in our on our body, it's our coccygeal plexus or pelvic plexus at the base of the spine. So physically, it's located just beneath or below the sacrum bone, or that triangular bone at the base of the spine. Our Muladhara chakra, or first energy center, governs within us physiologically our reproduction, everything to do with reproduction and excretion. So again, if our chakra is in a balanced state, everything's working perfectly. And if it's in an imbalanced state, we're going to have some physiological aspects within us. That's not to say that we're correcting our chakra to correct our physical being. Sometimes physical problems obviously need to be corrected through physical means. But here we're talking about kind of that preventative medicine. So by correcting or clearing ourselves on an energy level, we're creating that foundation so that problems, imbalances, and unhealthy manifestations don't come to be. Our imbalance is when our chakras, our first energy center is not in a balanced state. We are experiencing a few things. We're talking about a lack of purity or a lack of wholesomeness on the first energy center level. So foolishness or shrewdness, kind of being conniving or corrupt, evil, manipulative, just generally manipulative or shrewd or foolish. That manifests as a lack of joy. It becomes quite angry and manipulative and angry and kind of just very base level unhappy. It also can be connected with a lack of the ability to remember things. So a poor memory is connected to an imbalanced first energy center. When we don't have that real stability within us, we don't feel grounded. We're just not having that strong foundation, that Muladhara chakra, truly meaning the foundation within us. We're not stable. We're all over the place. We're not able to kind of really have that strength and that foundation, that stability within us. That's connected to our first energy center as well. As we're moving into balancing, creating that foundation within our first energy center, we'll start to see the inherent qualities of this chakra start to manifest. So we're talking about purity. So purity in the sense that we're not corrupt, we're not conniving, we're not manipulative, and we're not naive, but we're just pure. We're just full of joy and innocence and balance. So if we think about children, we can definitely correlate the quality of children to this first energy center. So children are generally not evil or corrupt. They're generally incredibly pure. They don't discriminate. They don't think bad about anyone. They don't think anything is that someone could have bad intentions. They think good of other people. So they have this pure kind of quality of mind. Again, not naive, but just innocent, just enjoying life and not expecting the worst out of it. As adults, I can say that we can take that purity. It's really important that we distinguish between innocence and naivete, that as an adult, it's possible to reestablish within us these childlike qualities, this ability to connect with our childlike kind of innocence and purity, being able to experience and enjoy life for its beauty and not kind of expect the worst. So we can be mature, we can be adults, we can understand how life is and be connected with reality, not be naive, understand that there is good and bad and there's lots of wrong that exists, but also we can choose to experience life through a state of joy. It truly transforms our quality of life when we're not kind of cynical all day long. And this isn't something that's happening through any kind of psychological therapeutic means. It's happening spontaneously just through this transformation that's happening through our meditation. We just start to feel and experience more joy. This is connected with our dignity as well. So again, we're not naive. We're not going to be easily manipulated. We can actually have dignity and also be innocent at the same time and feel this joy and experience this joy. Just as an imbalanced first energy center is connected with a lack of memory or a poor ability to remember. A strong first energy center is connected with a strong sense of direction. So we can think about children and we can think about animals when we talk about the first chakra. Children have this beautiful ability to experience life in a state of joy and purity, simplicity, not needing anything really material or superficial to be able to experience and enjoy life in a positive way. A simple wooden spoon and a metal pot is all you need to have some good times. Just as animals don't need a map to get to where they're going. So a strong sense of direction is established through this real innocence and purity that we find in children, this strong sense of direction and connectedness to the actual map of our lives, like an animal. So that can get reestablished within us if we don't already have a great sense of direction. Wisdom is something that we have to kind of distinguish between knowledge. So wisdom is being connected to real, strong, inherent truths. So just as we would go to an elder or someone that we believe has experienced life, that has a great deal of wise knowledge, we can get connected to that wisdom within us, that source of knowledge that is from the ages. So that wise quality that we think only comes from experience, we can actually get connected to that. Just as a child might have the sense not to do something wrong, we can have the sense of what's the right steps to take in our life, just as our wise elders might, if we do have any wise elders in our lives. And a grounded behavior, so that reestablishment, that connectedness, that foundation, that strength, that stability, being grounded. So that's a lot of discussion about very simple qualities that get reestablished when our first energy center gets into a balanced state. On our being, that first energy center, as mentioned, is just beneath the sacrum bone. And on the hands, it's reflected at the base of the wrist. So as we're starting to get in tune with this and aware of this vibratory experience, this awareness that's developing within us, we may start to notice vibrations or energy on the base, at the base of the wrist, kind of at the center of the wrist. When we are feeling those sensations, that is a reflection that there is something happening within us that corresponds to the first energy center. And we'll get more and more in detail into really decoding what's happening. What does that mean? Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Does that mean my energy center is balanced or imbalanced? And so forth. We'll get more into that. But again, I want us to really stay in that state of thoughtless awareness, not think too much about it, but just enjoy the fact that it's happening initially. Then we'll start to think and evaluate and do, because I know we all want to do that. So that's it for the first energy center. Let's talk about the second. Our second energy center in Sanskrit is known as the Swatishtana chakra. It's physically located at our aortic plexus, the lower part of our stomach. It's right at the hip region or the lower part of our stomach. It's governing on our physiological level, our liver, our kidney, our spleen, and our pancreas. All of that which filters and purifies within us. And this energy center has a lot to do with our purification and our filtering. So on the physical level and also on the mental level, you'll see as well. So our second energy center, lower part of the stomach, right at the hip level. And on our hands, it's reflected on our thumbs. So when we're starting to feel energy, we're going to be feeling when our second energy center is activated or there's something happening within this second energy center, we're going to start to feel it on the thumbs. So first energy center at the base of the wrist, second energy center on the thumbs. When our second energy center is in an imbalanced state, we're not inspired. We don't have that feeling of inspiration, that feeling of doing. We feel a little bit drab and dull. We might have a lack of creativity, a lack of imagination. We talked when we were discussing the left energy center, we talked about that quality of desire. when we don't have a quality of desire, there's nothing that we can do. We're kind of apathetic. And on the second energy center, when we don't have that creativity and that imagination, that doesn't kind of propel us forward to be able to create. And creativity is the quality of the second energy center. We talked about filtering. Well, we're talking about attention. So we live in a society nowadays where we're bombarded by stimuli all of the time, whether it's a commercial, whether it's a noise, whether it's a sound, whether it's an email, a text, a phone call. Something is happening to kind of, again, tap us on the shoulder, distract us on the left, distract us on the right, pull our attention into 1,000 different places. And that can lead to us having a weak attention or unable to focus on one thing at a time. We become hyper aware because we feel hyper responsible to respond to all of these different sounds and stimuli that are happening all around us, that are interrupting our peace or our focus. So that weak attention is something that can develop from a weak second energy center when we're kind of focused in a million directions and we're not able to kind of dial it back and be able to focus on one thing at a time. So our focus issues has to do with our second energy center. Insomnia is also something we can experience as a result of a weak second energy center, as well as anxiety or nervousness, something that we can probably relate to on some level. Some of us have more of this, some of us have less. But let's get to the good stuff. Let's look at what happens when our second energy center gets into a balanced state. So just as our attention can get weak, our ability to focus can be weak. The ability to strengthen that, to be attentive, to be able to focus in a strong, sustained, dedicated way, to be able to look at one person and have a sustained, really attentive conversation, even if a million things are going on around us, and not get distracted. It's an incredible thing. And it's often a difficult thing that we've lost the habit of doing. But as our second energy center gets strengthened within us, it becomes easier and easier to be attentive and to be focused and not to get so easily distracted. That inspiration comes naturally, that ability to create, that ability to imagine, that ability to take something from nothing. So there's nothing, whether we're a writer or a designer or a chef, or we just need to do something in our lives and we don't have the recipe to do it. Taking something from nothing is the ability to be creative, to be inspired, and that gets reestablished as our second energy center gets strengthened. If we're experiencing a lack of self-discipline, that's something that also gets reestablished, that gets strengthened within our second energy center. A love of learning. So just as we might not have that inspiration or that creativity, we may feel that drab kind of quality in a learning environment or in an environment where we're given information, but becoming passionate about information, becoming passionate about knowledge, about learning, about creativity is something that gets strengthened through our second energy center. And because this is connected with creativity, not only do we become more enabled to be creative, we become more able to enjoy the creativity, the creation that's happening all around us. So that appreciation of beauty, that appreciation of aesthetics, nothing has to change in our lives, but as our attention changes, we find that we can experience joy by appreciating all that's beautiful, all the aesthetic glory that's all around us. Self-discipline, organization, inspiration, all of this really great stuff that happens from a strengthened second energy center. So really we're filtering by strengthening our attention. So filtering out the bad, purifying our system as our liver and our pancreas and our spleen does. Here we're filtering our attention or strengthening our attention by filtering out all of the lack of attention, taking our attention and directing it into one thing at a time, or to that which is important, to that which is joy-giving, to that which is beautiful, to that which is creative. So that's all we're going to talk about for our first and our second energy centers. That's a great mouthful. And I hope that gives you a little kind of morsel of information as we're meditating, as we're starting to feel what's happening within us as our inner energy is rising and we're feeling the expression of her activity on our hands and on the top of the head. We are also learning about our inner energy system and starting to understand what's happening. Why is our life transforming? Let's just observe what's happening within us as our system gets into a balanced state. So, little by little, we'll start to understand how this breaks down at each chakra level. So, let's start to get ready for our meditation.